Welcome back, everyone. Greg Essenmacher here. You know me, but I cannot tell you how excited I am to have on my friend, Dr. Eric Roman, onto the show today. Welcome, Dr. Eric Roman. Now we get to hear about his bio. So, Dr. Eric J. Roman believes in the power of systems to get results. I love the look. For those of you listening on audio, go over to YouTube and see the look he just gave when I said that. So, the business operating system he's built for multi-location dental companies generated more than 200 million for his own companies and billions for companies that has adopted the framework. But Eric realized something was missing. For all the business success he's experienced and guided, it seems that our personal lives are still lagging in satisfaction. Amen to that, brother. He discovered that what we all really needed was a system for our families and for our lives, one that provides us with fun, fulfillment, and freedom. Through the One Life system, Eric and his team deliver precisely that: a simple, modern, systemic path to unlock joy and alignment for entrepreneurs as well as their teams. Welcome, Dr. Eric Roman, to the show.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, Greg, that as I was listening to the bio, I was like, that sounds like me. I think that fits.
I was like, that sounds like a really cool guy. I should probably get to know him. I love when people read my bio and I get done and I'm like, wow, who is that guy? I want to know that guy.
Going to be a big letdown today, but yeah, we'll get there. It's nice to hang out with you, Greg.
Absolutely. You know, Eric, you and I met for the first time in person. We had met virtually quite a while ago, and then we met for the first time in person at a conference recently. And I mean, the energy was just insane. There was a couple of people around, and I think they all took like a half a step back because we were both like on the same spinning, gyrating speed. And they're like, I think we're going to get thrown off this tilt-a-whirl. Like, we better step aside. And I loved your energy, and I'm so excited to have you on the show today. So,
takes one to know one.
Business. Everybody loves business, but when somebody takes their business acumen, they take the success they've had in business and they like to talk about other, right? Because I think that's so critically important. And on the Two Sleuth podcast, we talk about that all the time, right? Vulnerability. What's the personal side of the business side? Because there's plenty of podcasts that talk about business. And we talk about the business side of dentistry. And a lot of times the business side of dentistry is our own personal business. How are we taking care of ourselves? So talk to my listening audience about a little bit about what that transition started to look like for you from extremely successful in business, right? In the numbers, in the building of empires, and because that's what they are, right? You know, when you got PE money involved and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into, wait, there's a gap here. Talk to me about what that evolution and enlightenment was for you. And then we can get into a little bit more detail there.
You got it. You know what's funny, Greg? I'll even go a step further back. I remember when I graduated dental school. Now, it's a long time ago. I remember thinking, what do I expect my career to look like? And whether you're graduating, something, when you're starting out, you have this massive vision. Here, like, the world is my oyster. What am I going to do? And I had more wisdom maybe at that point than I gave credit to. Like, what was I thinking about? I was thinking about, what was I going to receive from what I did? What was my life going to look like? I was imagining what it would look like to have a family, to be able to travel, to be able to enjoy my experience. I was thinking about the relationships and all the other stuff. And that's where it started. I actually remember I found it years ago. I had this paper where I was like, what do I want to get out of my career? And it was really simple, Then I got started being a dentist, building an empire, doing all this stuff, and crap got complicated really quick, right? And what's funny is I completely forgot about that simple nature of what I really wanted to get out of life, what I wanted to experience. And 100% of my energy, probably more than that, I probably dug down into my reserves. All my energy went towards professional success, bigger, better, faster, all that stuff. That was what I woke up for. And that's what I went to bed for. So, Greg, like, when I was starting everything, did I say, I want to work 100 to 120 hours a week? I want to be traveling every weekend. I want to be constant. I want to be waking up early in the morning to a bunch of emails I don't want to deal with. I want to be staying up all night building systems and processes to be able to implement them when I get there with bags under my eyes the next morning. Is that what I said? No, it's not. But that's what professional validation took me to. Because you know what? It feels good to win, doesn't it, Greg? Like, you know what that feels like. It feels good whether you're closing a 5-figure case, or whether you're adding a new location, or whether you're speaking on a stage. It feels good to win. It feels good to see success in the bottom line of the businesses you're building. And man, it took over, Greg. Like, it took over every bit of who I was. And that gap between who I said I wanted to be and who I was living as was getting wider and wider. And all the while, a bunch of kids show up. I wasn't present for them. I was missing all the school plays. I was missing all the pickups. I was missing all the weekend activities. I was missing the soccer games on Saturdays because I was traveling somewhere to speak and go validate my soul, right? Like, I was missing all that. My wife didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. Did I have any friends? No. My friends were my coworkers. Like, you know what they were? They were my partners in crime. But are they going to show up at my funeral? Probably not. They weren't really. Like, did they have unconditional love for me? I don't know that they did. I think that a lot of the strength of our relationship was conditional on the fact that I was winning and they were winning too. We were all winning together. It's really easy to be in a good relationship with somebody when you're all winning. But were they really like friends? Like, was I having heart to heart, vulnerable? You talk about that. Was I having like really vulnerable conversations with them? Probably not. So that was the journey. Like, all of a sudden, I was ruled in my life by professional success, and my personal life was trash. And I thought, all I have to do then is sell the professional success. If I can tap out of that, then I'll have everything I want at home. Turns out it didn't work.
Yeah, and it's so true, right? Because what you're talking about, and I can identify with this, and I'll admit this, right? It turns into an ego feeding proposition. The wanting to be up on stage in front of 200 doctors and speaking. Check me, right? Get that. It's the we heard about this just in a recent episode with Kevin Kumbis, right? The head of Tusk Partners. He talked about this, about how he knew in full well was trading the time with his children, right? By taking the early morning phone calls, the evening phone calls as he was building his business, and then eventually would start to trade time for money, right? And money for time. And what he's been able to do building his company, just as I'm building G&A Consult into a company, it's not just a one-man show, bringing a director into the company, having 5 people as a part of the business, right? You do that type of thing. And I work with clinicians and founders, and these are not just, oh, well, I have a pretty good practice that does 100,000 a month, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? A $1.2 million practice is something to be very proud of. If you're at 20% EBITDA, like, all of that's great. But the founders that I tend to work with, right, in the full arch, that are growing into emerging groups, which is the wheelhouse of what we do, because we work with others, but that's really the sweet spot as they're building and growing another location, like you said, right? A $50,000 case, like you said, right? These are like the sweet spot. There's something about them that I get to sit down knee to knee, eye to eye, and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that is my phrase that I ask them. There's ways to parse that phrase, but it's probably the Detroit in me, right? You know, born and raised, that just ask them a very direct question, right? And they're very successful people. So being able to just really peel all that away and say, where are you going with all this? Like, and others, you know, that I know of in the industry that are fantastic, right? Julianne O'Connor comes to mind, and she's all about like finding your joy, and, you know, talks about this as well. And, you know, she was instrumental in the very beginning when I was still with Neodent, and we had conversations about this all the time. I love her. She is so heart-centered for me, and I love conversations with her, and so many others. But she came to mind right away as I was talking about this. It is so critically important to say, where's your joy? You know, where do you find joy and satisfaction? And if it's only in business, eventually you build it up, sell it to a PE group, and then, and then, and then, what's after that? Is it to go ahead and build something up again? I mean, where is the satisfaction in that? And so I want you to leap off from there because I know there's more to leap off from there with what you're talking about. It's the where is the rest of the story for you? And some of us who are really good at business aren't really good at the personal life stuff because we've been so good at business, and so we tend to gravitate towards the path of least resistance, which is business. Even though it's very hard, it's easier, or at least it's more familiar for us. Would you agree with that?
Did you nailed it? Because what you said in there, what I heard you say, Greg, listen, what professional business work looks like is different for all of us. Whether it's an awesome 30 grand a month practice, whether it's being an incredible front office team member, whether it's being a manager, whether it's being a CEO of a massive multinational, it's all the same inside of us. It still is this workspace, right? And you know what? Our society has been training us to give this our first and best energy every day. Get your butt up early, be more productive, peak performance. How much more can you give to this so you can get more, right? So you can get more. And so we wake up every day, we give all that energy there. And that's what I did. And we're giving the energy to this space for what? Because we want to get something out of it. But your point is, where is your joy? Most of us don't have a clue. And because we've never actually been challenged to answer that question and nobody's shown us the pathway, this ends up being the only place we know how to receive validation and joy consistently. Because what happens when you're not getting validation and joy at work? Well, great. Go get a book. There's 64 billion books on how to be better at business. There's consultants, there's coaches, there's operating systems, architectures, you name it. Help me here. I mean, I go on my flipping Instagram feed. I just learned how to use Instagram. And like all it's saying to me is like,
always be learning. Well done.
more customers, more business, more EBITDA, more all this stuff. It's like Instagram's like just peppering me. I got a lot of options out there, right? And then this happens though. And by the way, to your point also, 80%, I just did an exit planning workshop for a bunch of entrepreneurs this past week. So it's all fresh in my head. 80% of people that sell their business, regardless of how much money, regret it within the first 12 months. Regret it and wish they did not within the first 12 months. It only took me 14 days. Like that was how quick I regretted it. Now then, we focused our energy here. Then we go home at the end of the day and we have the oh crap moment. Whether it's a dog, whether it's a family, whether it's a partner, or whether it's you trying to build some of those things, you have the oh crap moment of, oh man, I really do like this. But then you have the second oh crap moment of, but it's really hard. My dog always needs to get walked. My relationship needs a lot of nurturing and attention. Maybe I can just go back to work where everybody listens to me and does what I say, right? Like it's easier there. And then there's a third oh crap moment. The third oh crap moment is when you wake up the next morning and you're like, gosh, my body's tired. I haven't worked out in a while. I'm sure not eating well. You look down and you can't see your feet and you're thinking, I know I could do better, but I'll get there someday. I'll rest. I'll take care of me someday. There's the people I love. They need my attention before I need my attention. And then there's my work. There ain't enough time for all these things. This is an inverted pyramid, Greg. It defies physics. You ever see an inverted pyramid standing around on Earth? No, it's because it doesn't work that way. And when things pour out from the top, it misses the people inside that we want to bathe in our love, right? And so the challenge for me, when I exited my business, I sold it. I had more zeros in my bank account. And in 14 days, I was miserable because magically selling the business didn't give me back my relationship with my kids. It didn't give me back my health or my body or my mental energy or my engagement. It didn't give me purpose. Actually, it took away my purpose because now I had the one thing I was good at. Now I had nowhere to go. I couldn't do it anymore. And you know what? It didn't give me back my relationship with my wife, like with my spouse, So all of a sudden, I thought solving it by getting rid of it would give me what I wanted in my life. And it was a lie. It was a complete lie. But now I had an opportunity. And what I realized was that nobody had ever shown me how to have any of those things in the first place. In the same way we have coaches and programs and things like that, to get us what we want out of our businesses, who's showing us how to get what we want out of our personal lives, right? What's the recipe, dude?
Yeah. And what you're talking about too is, and what happens is that we get that external validation through business, and we don't get it necessarily because we haven't invested the time, effort, and energy in home, right? In the other parts of our
We
business,
want
which
it
is our
there.
business life. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, we get the validation. So we go back to it. When our priorities aren't in alignment, that's when we end up doing it, because we come home, right? To use what you're talking about, we come home from the business world where we are the boss, we are validated, we are the ones ruling the roost. We come home and then we have to be a part of, not a part from, which is what happens when you climb to the top of whatever, like you said, whether you're the CEO of a multinational corporation or whether you're simply, the best at what you do at being, a rock star front desk, a manager type of thing. In that scenario, you come home and then you see the dog, the spouse, the kids, or whatever, that you aren't engaged in their life because you don't know exactly what's going on and you're not informed, and you can't say, great, give me that report, give me that. You can't gimme. And then there's the guilt and remorse you have, and you cycle all the way through. And I'll get to that tomorrow when you wake up in the morning to continue on with yours. So what do? You run back to where you're going to get the validation, and you get that validation. And then what do you do with that validation? You outsource it, and you learn to outsource it. So you start to outsource the personal life. And it all comes back to the same thing, brother. It all comes back to priorities and where to prioritize. I am so grateful in my life that I ended up in addiction, right? And now I've been sober 19 years. So anytime that I need it, I can go. I just went to my sponsor last weekend and I said, look, I'm going back into these old habits, right? These old character defects that I don't like. I snapped twice, short, on my fuse. This is not working for me. I can't figure it out myself. Sat down with them and he's basically like, what are you doing? Like, where are you spending your time? Like, they're never going to say at your wake, oh man, like he really worked a lot. Like that was really proud of. And I know these things here in my head, like you're talking about, but to be able to internalize it, because there's always another email, there's always another, especially as you're building and growing, right? And especially when you're in explosive growth. And so that misalignment of priorities, and there's not a whole lot of people that talk about, well, I do, and people that come on my show do, and those other entrepreneurs who I'm either giving a hand off to and asking for help, or giving a hand up to, and we're collaborating and talking about it in this space. It's okay to talk about it. And corporate America is all well and good, and I learned a ton from my experience in that space. I learned business acumen in that space, but I didn't learn self-care in that space. And it's not that it was any part of their fault. I take ownership of that. But even from my personal life, I still need to be reminded on a daily basis. And so helping to find that leveler, right? That gauge, and something, that plumb bob, if you will, for individuals. I'm fortunate enough that I still need to take care of my recovery on a regular basis. I love what Margie Schaller and Laura Nelson are doing with Sober Life Rocks, and I'm a founding member. It doesn't mean you have to be sober. You can just be a wingman or supportive of, or sober-ish, whatever it is. But the reason I love it so much, it's supportive for at any dental conference or any dental event, that it doesn't have to be centered around drinking. And because it's a supportive community, it should be the same way around having balance for personal and work life. You can still be tremendously successful. What's that extra 10%? What's that extra? I'm not going to say the extra zero, because the extra zero means a lot in a bank account in your case. But, what is the extra, one or two to the left of the comma? If it's a 3 or a 4, when there's a number of zeros behind it, what are you sacrificing to get there? And I don't behoove anyone of wanting to take advantage of living in a capitalist society, right? Because I'm glad we do too, right? As what I'm building and what I'm able to be successful in. So that's what I'm hearing you say, that, is there a way to find that balance between the two while you're still wildly successful, and transfer those skills? Is that what I'm hearing?
Amen, brother. You know what's funny that you said in there, though? We all have a belief that we have to sacrifice something to get what we want out of our lives. That was the corner. You said it 4 times in there. I had the same thing What am I giving up? My business isn't going to grow as fast. It's going to mean fewer zeros. It's going to mean fewer whatevers. It's going to mean suck. I'm going to let people down. In our businesses, we have outrageous accountability because I had 300 team members. I had people counting on me every day to show up and do the best. And if I sucked, I wasn't putting food on their table and I needed them to go find somewhere else, right? Somewhere that wasn't maybe as enjoyable. It's like egotistical.
So it's still my mindset, right? So I still
Right?
have
It's
that.
a
You have to
sacrifice.
sacrifice to be successful. I'm still stuck in that old way of thinking. Yeah.
And not only that, and what are you sacrificing? You're thinking about, I'm sacrificing output, right? Which means money, which means whatever. I'm sacrificing time that I could be giving to get more output. And you know what else you might be sacrificing? Like maybe it's more opportunity. Maybe it's your next thing, whatever it is, you got to sacrifice to get what you want. And I say no, because you said one other interesting thing in there, Greg. You mentioned our professional lives are insatiable. They always want more. Tell me at any point where there isn't more you can give in your business life. Tell me where there's not more money, another opportunity, a new vertical, another person you can talk to, another podcast we can do, another thing. Oh my goodness. Do you know what the blessing is in our life? Is our professional lives are infinite. There's always another opportunity. That's one of the cool things. Maybe that's one of the reasons they demand so much of us. But here's the thing. When you put a monster with an insatiable appetite at the top of your priorities and your order of operations, is it any wonder you ain't got no energy left to go put towards the other stuff?
Right.
It's
And you
because
add on top of that somebody with an addictive personality. You put those two together and they're
me
having
too.
a field day.
And dude, I'll be honest with you, Greg. I'm not sure which came first. I wonder if, because do you know how many of us as entrepreneurs identify as addictive personalities? Honestly, probably most of us. We are
Most.
addicted. We got
Let's
things.
put that survey out into the
Yeah.
marketplace and see
Yep.
how
I'm
much
right there with
honesty
you.
we get.
I know. I have an entrepreneurial addiction, right? Like, here I am. So that's my catch, is that we believe, A, we're feeding an insatiable monster first. Of course, we don't have any energy left for the things that matter. B, be like, oh my goodness, like nobody has ever shown us how. And we think we have to sacrifice to serve the things that we say matter most. And that's the lie. That's the lie that we've all swallowed hook, line, and sinker. And the solution is that, like, to your point, this isn't a weekend event. Like you go and you check in, you're like, oh, okay, I'm good now. This goes on forever. Just like your struggle with addiction, just like my struggle with addiction goes on forever, ever, right? Like you have to continuously deal with it because every day crap's changing. Like, oh, new little shift here. Oh, new little shift there. And so we don't need an event. We need a system. We need a process that we can run. And we ain't got no time. So we need a process that doesn't waste our time. We need a process that doesn't waste our energy, like something that uses less than 1% of our available capacity. And the other thing that we have to do, Greg, back to your original point, my pyramid with the insatiable monster up top, we got to flip the freaking pyramid, turn it upside down. And it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy because you're thinking, whoa, that means I'm putting my business down here. I'm going to put myself first. Oh, that just feels yucky. Then I'm going to put the people that matter. Like I'm going to prioritize them over the business. You're thinking, I'm not going to get stuff done. My business is going to languish. It's going to suck. I promise you, Greg, not only will you get as much out of your business life, I'm willing to bet you in the majority of cases, people get more. And here's why. The catch is you don't need that much, big guy. Like you don't need 40 hours a week of self-care and massage therapy, right? Like you need very little. You just need to be giving yourself a little bit. And you know what happens then? Instead of you were giving yourself nothing when you were at the bottom of the pyramid, right? You gave yourself no energy. When you're up here at the top, now you just have a little bit, you have an abundance of energy that flows out because you just gave yourself a little bit of self-care, a little bit of attention, or a little bit of focus. And then from that abundance of energy, it flows naturally down our pyramid now because it's working with physics into the people that we love. And you know what? They got lives to live too. That was the thing I discovered. I got home, I sold my business. I'm like, kids, daddy's home. Let's all like, and they're like, Dad, shut up. We got friends, we got school, we got all sorts of stuff. We got sports. We miss you, but like, and we're glad you're back, but we didn't really need that much. We just actually just needed some like genuine connection, which only needs this much time. I was like, well, crap. My wife was the same way. She actually, that was why it hurt so bad at 2 weeks. She was like, you made a big mistake. You made a big mistake selling your business, because if you stay home this much, I'm going to kill you.
Right,
And
exactly.
so
Yeah, that's the whole. Don't you have another trip coming up? Whenever I've like carved out too much time. So
get
yeah, it's
out.
how much time do you really need? Well, my husband would
You're
love to hear
annoying me.
about the fact that I would prioritize him, and I literally heard that this past weekend, which is a good thing that I'm being reminded of it. Good thing I'm going on vacation, so as well. And efficiency, right? That's the key.
Bit.
That's what I heard. Just a little bit,
That's
yeah, for sure.
So we give a little to us, we give a little to them. Our energy overflows. Their little cups are full. Imagine how he feels having that energy from you and being able to know also, you know what mattered to them was knowing that they were more of a priority than where I had them before. And now I've got an abundance of energy from them that's flowing into the business. And you know what happens? 2 other things happen in the business. Not only is the business getting you with a level of capacity and energy that they've never seen before. You think that you're on fire some days. Imagine how on fire you are when you have an abundance of energy and you've been caring for yourself, right? But there's one other thing that happens. Because the business is a little bit further down the pyramid, you stop doing wasteful crap. Like, you have to think about it and you're like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, or this, because I need that little bit of time for me. And you stop doing it and things get better. Things start multiplying because we're ridding ourselves, we're delegating superfluous tasks. Greg, like, how hard is it? It just takes a little bit of time. It just takes a little bit of guidance. And I recognized there was no system. So we built the structure in 1LifeSystem. That's my life in a nutshell, brother.
I love it. I love it. And I'm sure my listening audience does too. All right, Eric, here's the part of the program all of my guests play. It's a little something called What the Sleuth is Going On? 3 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready, Greg. I'm in it for the money, buddy. Let's do this.
Question number 1. What's the worst bad breath you've ever encountered?
Greg, there is nothing on this earth. Nothing on this earth. Like a massive case of periodontal disease. Like just like the one where, like, the one where the tooth are mobile. But here's the thing, Greg. Confession. After you do it long enough as a dentist, when you smell it when you're walking down the hallway and they walked in front of you, when you smell it, you kind of
from outside the operatory or behind them. Yes, or in an airport or in a restaurant. You can smell it from way away. I can smell it from far away now. That's how long I've been in dental. I've been in dental 18 years. I can smell perio disease.
Let me at it, Greg.
Across the way.
I'm ready. But I literally, when you said that, I thought of like 3 cases I could see. Go.
All right. Clinical people always have the perio. I love it. Question number 2. If you could change one thing about your smile, what would it be?
Huh. It's funny that you ask about that, Greg. As I have aged, don't tell anybody, but I have started on occasion, I tell my patients, your teeth are going to move until the day that you die, whether you like it or not. It's just the way life works. I have started on occasion to wake up with a small diastema between 8 and 9. And I think that I would change it, but I kind of like it. So my dentist...
Michael Strahan, step aside. Dr. Eric J. Roman's on this one.
There's something really quality character about it. So, hey, maybe when we see each other at a conference, you might say, Eric, I think I can see that space and be like...
Let me, I can see it. Yeah, he'll have like business cards stuck between there, just like, come grab one. There you go. I like it. All right. Question number 3. If you could go back and be the inventor of any dental product, which one would you choose and why?
If I could go back and I could be the inventor of any dental product, number 1, I would want that to be the dental product that people enjoy. What is the fun thing that they're like, oh, this is kind of cool, like I enjoy it.
Nitrous.
Well, Greg, thanks for showing up.
You can't ask the host
thing
question.
That, like, people are excited to ask for, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, what would, like, the thing where, do you know what else I love? You know why I also want to be the inventor of nitrous, Greg? Is because number 1, like, they go to a happy place. That smile, that nitrous smile you get sometimes that's like, hey, That's what I want to do.
I told you my history. Like whippets are a thing. Like I know we probably shouldn't be talking about it, but I mean,
If I
it's a thing.
if I
right?
couldn't be
Just saying.
nitrous, I would want to be like some type of low dose benzodiazepine.
Shaded
I want to be a drug for people.
Shaded past on the Two
Yeah.
Sleuth podcast. Your host, Greg Essenmacher, lets it all out. All right, Eric, in the last few minutes, is there anything I haven't shared? I want to respect your time, my listening audience. Some people run to my podcast, and I don't want them to like blow out a knee because they ran 5 miles instead of 4. Anything I haven't shared or asked you or that you want to share with the listening audience? I know you talked about the 1LifeSystem. How do they find you? How do they find information on that? Give me the goods.
Do you know what? First, I love to share with people. I love to talk about this stuff. I could do it all day long. I've been doing it for years. And so if your audience wants to engage with me, find me on Instagram or Facebook, Dr. Eric J. Roman. That's my way of differentiating myself. It's that J, goes down below the plane of the traditional letters. And aside from that, www.1, the number, numero uno, number 1, LifeSystem, one word.com. And you can find out about our online events that we do, about retreats. We keep it low touch. It's digital. We ain't gonna waste your time. We don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. And that's the 1LifeSystem. So I'd love to engage with anybody in your awesome audience.
Love it. Truly appreciated the conversation, a little mind meld and sharing of thoughts and feelings on how professional life and personal life don't have to be separate and there doesn't have to be sacrifice. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric J. Roman, for being a guest on the Two Sleuth podcast. Thank you.